One more thing.
Yo, what's going on? It's the One More Thing, and we are celebrating an awesome milestone. Our SoundCloud mix series, One More Mix, has hit 140. 140! I've been thinking about this pretty much since the day I launched the mix series, which was the day I launched the website, which was on the 22nd of June 2022. 3 years, 1 week and 1 day ago since I recorded this introduction. I've been thinking about the 140th mix for pretty much that long, or certainly since I had my favourite dubstep DJ do mix 95 or 98, I think it was, N-Type. Who was going to do 140? Who was going to do 140? It had to be Deep Tempo. It had to be Deep Tempo. Because they ain't just DJs. They are representing the sound and the culture and the genre and the movement on a level that I relate to incredibly hard. So hard I take my hat off. C-Bo, Cuttah, absolute legends. I found out about so many awesome artists because of them. They've gone from a podcast to a label to a zine to merch. They tour. They've taken the sound and represented all around Asia, India, South America. It's absolutely fascinating what these two men have done, and they've done it from a place like myself, not connected with any of the big cities like London or Bristol and stuff like that. And I think that's really, really important too. I always run an interview with every mix that we do. I think it's really important because I want the DJ to be celebrated and have a place to tell their story. But in this instance, we did the interview on Zoom, and it was such an awesome chat that a couple of nips and tucks, it had to go out as a Zoom style interview. If you're interested in launching a podcast, running a platform, having a brand, and you engage, relate and amplify and represent on the nerdiest, passionate level that you can see coming from me and the crew at One More Thing, or those guys, C-Bo and Cuttah, or other. There are other brands of people at Studio as well. There's a couple, Render Magazine. There's a couple of amazing crews who are so passionate, who are just taking this as far as they can, in a real kind of grassroots DIY, proper fan style. Deep Tempo, that's them. They had to do the 140th mix because they're not coming from a particular kind of label. They represent the entire sound. You listen to any of their podcasts, they absolutely love. They eat, sleep and breathe 140 music. So it was only right that they did the 140th mix. It's loaded with dubs. It's absolutely amazing. And this interview is loaded with just fascinating little anecdotes. I'm asking them questions on how they deal with certain challenges that I face. It's really, really interesting seeing how they work together. They also manage full-time jobs as well. And yeah, I just salute them really, really hard. They're absolutely smashing it. They're a couple of years ahead from One More Thing. They're 6 years old. We're 3 years old. We're actually celebrating our 3rd birthday. If you're watching this in real time, like literally the day it's out or a couple of days within it's out, we're at the Star and Garter on Thursday, the 3rd of July with Quentin Hiatus and many others. That's not what this video is about. I'm recording one of them later. But in the meantime, this is the story of Deep Tempo and the story of the 140th mix on One More Thing. Yes, it's to another 140 mixes. Thank you very much for supporting. This is C-Bo and Cuttah.
One more thing.
Things are really, really exciting for this kind of tempo of music. I don't want to use the word dubstep because there's so much more to it. But also, I mean, like 140 is a really kind of awful, starchy kind of description of it all. You guys don't shy away from the word dubstep, though. I think the umbrella term you guys use is definitely dubstep, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what we use. We've had these conversations with the older lot, haven't we, as well? So, like the old guard, I guess, like the originators, because some of them were getting a bit funny online about the term 140. But I mean, I think as far as we know, like when people in this, like the way it's used in the terminology just means is like, especially now where all the lines are so blurred, it's just like people are just saying like, oh, basically are saying I'm gonna play a dubstep, a grime, and a garage set in a short way. It's literally what it is. It's just like using it. No one's calling it a genre. They're just literally using it as an easy way to say that's what you can expect from me tonight. That's literally it. And like all artists already have like what's it, like a perceived expectation of like which way they lean a bit more on those genres, and they don't really need to explain themselves. And I get it when some people, if they are just going to have a grime set, people will just say, I'm doing a grime set. That's just kind of where it is. But we use dubstep, and it, I don't think we.
No, we always use dubstep, but like obviously it's just the American version of it is kind of took over the name, hasn't it? Like the bro step is dubstep.
That's true.
To the commercial, broader spectrum, to the commercial audience, it's that's what they think dubstep is. So to kind of differentiate it, you got to explain it in a different way, and 140 is probably the easiest way of saying it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or deep dubstep, man.
Well, this is something, I mean, it comes up in regular conversations that you have on almost every episode I was listening to earlier, where you say about kind of people scratching the surface, and how you still perpetually face with people the minute you use the word dubstep or anything, they just stop and, oh, it sounds like robots having sex or whatever. It's like, oh, come on, get past that, like scratch into it, and you hear some real actual kind of dub music or real, you know, musical melodic stuff and things like that. And it's the constant kind of, it's that stigma that just a very dominant sound created quite a long time ago, really, but it's still, some people have never moved on from that. But I think this is a regular conversation for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. I don't see it ending. Like you do, at the end of the day, I think for all of us in the bubble, we get caught up with like, you know, who's who of like, you know, in our scene, and it's like we're dealing with niche underground music here. Your masses, like, they don't give a shit. Like they just don't. Like, do you know what I mean? They care about pop music and what's on the radio and what's basically in, you know, in the adverts and being used in movies and whatnot. So it's only us who are having like the real infighting, and or I say if it's not even infighting, just like internal like identity crisis. It's just at the end of the day, we're here to like push the sound forward, keep promoting it, make it a healthy scene, which, to be honest, I think it is. I see lots of people saying they're not excited about stuff, and they kind of then project that onto the entire scene. But I think a lot of that comes from how they feel personally in their own music. Maybe whether they're a producer or a DJ, like in terms of what they're playing, they're a bit jaded, they need to freshen things up or come at things that are different, or just have a break, man. Go and go do a month of listening to jazz. Don't even listen to any dubstep for a bit, and then come back and see like how maybe you're like crate digging in a record shop, or how you're searching on Bandcamp changes because you've got these new inspirations. Like that's what people need to do.
Definitely. So much I want to put up on there. I mean, the one thing is to use the magic word, which is niche. And I think, you know, I absolutely love niches, really. I mean, even like when I was working on mainstream brands like UKF, it's still within the wider world of music, is still very much a niche. And I think celebrating that niche and really having a speciality in something that you really, really love, and developing that kind of knowledge, you know, kind of, and being part of the community, contributing to it as much as you're a fan of it, is the most important thing for me, and always has been as a music journalist, and especially now creating my own brand, One More Thing, which is a couple of years behind kind of Deep Tempo, really, in that way. But I think this is why I asked you guys to do the 140th mix in our series. It's like, if there's anybody who really represents like where things are at the moment, really, and has that kind of overall view, is, you know, kind of people who have a brand, you know, where it's not like a label where you're just kind of invested in a certain little section of artists. You're checking out the whole scope, which is something that I can completely relate to with what I've done for many years as a journalist across the board, but certainly with my brand. You're seeing it all. You're not just tunnel visioned or blinkered. You're really, you know, kind of, and that sometimes takes a lot of work. You know, you have to make sure that you're unturning stones and checking for certain sounds and labels, and not just going to the same old spots. You can't get jaded, really, in that way. You have to rise above or fight through the jadedness, don't you?
Definitely, man. Yeah, I mean, God, how many new people have we had on the show this year, bro?
Well, this is it. Like, we get that sort of first look at some of the up and comers, don't we? That have like not many followers at all, and they give us their first EP or their first few productions, and then it's like you go from there, really. And you're like, oh, they've got something about them here, these people. Then a couple months go by, we put them on the podcast, and then they're on a Locust Sound or an Infernal Sounds or something in the future, or even smaller label, and they can just develop from there. But it is great. It's great to see this, like, so many, like, of the smaller names just up and coming, just like absolutely smashing it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to think of like some standout. Like there's you get scared of start mentioning names because you're gonna like forget
Yeah,
something
this is it.
crucial.
Oh, massively. Or someone puts you on the spot and your brain just empties. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't know any artist names at all.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, to put it into perspective, it's like here we are. It's 2025. The scene's how old, and we haven't had a podcast this year yet that hasn't had a brand new name to the show, and we've been going for 6 years. We used for 4.5 years. We were every 2 weeks, and since then we've been every month. And the only month we've ever taken off is Christmas. Like is like the January month. And so every show, we still got brand new names coming through that we've never featured, that are brand new to us. Some come along and have been bubbling away for a little while, but maybe they're just somewhere really niche. Maybe they're not strictly dubstep. They make like other music, which those guys and gals tend to like actually do usually shockers because they're bringing influences from some obscure scene that you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't really expecting that. But yeah, loads of new names coming through. And it's great to see.
Even today, like obviously, I put that story out about us doing an unreleased special because this is a good opportunity to see new names. And I've already downloaded most of them already because I had a bit of time earlier. And there's new names on there. There's a guy from Japan. I can't remember the exact name now. Something Autumn. Yeah. And I listened to it. I was like, it's got that Japanese sound. I was like, never heard of him, but it's Bad Boy, man.
It's
Bad Boy. So it's like
when you're putting out a request for unreleased music, isn't that great when you don't know what you're going to get? And I do that every month where I'm asking people for demos for my demo drop show, and you don't know what you're going to be subjected to. But you've kind of, when you're putting that flag out and you're saying, right, yo, I'm going to listen to everything that's unreleased, there might be some bits which aren't quite ready yet or aren't quite, it don't quite hit the spot. But generally speaking, like you are hearing things for the very first time out of the studio. It's a real honor, isn't it, really, when you're getting sent unreleased stuff like that.
I think sometimes as well you can see the potential in a tune. Like maybe it's not been mastered very well yet, or it's like not been, it's just a pre-master, it's a bit quiet, but you're like, if this has got a little bit more attention, proper master on it, on a big sound system, because it's happened before. I've been out before and I've like maybe listened on my laptop to a tune and thought, I'm not really feeling it. Heard it on a fucking sound system, and I'm like, it's like a different tune, isn't it?
Yeah. We're quite privileged in that aspect of like, because of what we do. It is we'll hear tunes like go through the journey like of their development in the scene, like them as dubs. Like maybe they were circulated because they thought, these, and they often have bracket playable on them, But we'll like 3 months later, we're on version 11 of this thing being resent out. They've obviously had all sorts of midnight masters changing, sorting out their mix downs on these stuff. But it's like when you listen to the last version of it and the first version, it's a completely different tune. They've like in terms of how, it's how much it's been polished and finished off and is really hitting. And often that's why I think that there's quite a lot of younger producers who aren't like getting their music road tested enough, and that might be because they're like unfortunately not in a great market for it, even if they're not getting a ton of bookings themselves, but they're not in a city or a scene where they've got like people playing out that they could pass their music to and say, hey, check this out, let me know, and potentially hear it in a club space. But hearing your stuff like be road tested before you go to release it, it gives it a life on the dance floor that's exciting, and it gives it that potential of oh, what's that tune? It only takes like one person in a Facebook group or on a Reddit post to say, has anyone got the ID for this? And your sales are going to be 10 times more than what they were if you just posted about it on your own Instagram once and never spoke about it again. So that's just a lot of producers that go down this path.
Yeah, massively. But I mean, it's really interesting you mentioned about like not being in, kind of particular spots where you could hear it out. No, I mean, I know that you're speaking to me from Brixton, but you're not originally from Brixton. And I think you originated, was it Rugby? Or somewhere that's kind of in north.
That's where Todd still lives. Todd still lives there,
I mean, I'm in the
yeah.
valleys in Wales, you know, so like, you know, there's kind of like another reason why what you guys do resonates with me is because it's not a London or Bristol or Manchester centric thing, that you can still kind of, you know, you can still make those connections and be part of the community and not be in a really expensive city, can't you?
100%. That's the beauty of the scene now, isn't it, Todd? Was it? Well, I was thinking, what was it people were saying to it? It was like in the early days, like in the first, I'm talking like first few months ever of the podcast, and that people were asking like where we're from and all those sort of where these guys come from, especially when we showed our face in raves and it when we first like rocked up to Medi to heavyweight, because we always come to London nights. It's you know, from Rugby it's 50 minutes on the train, but
Oh wow, okay, that's
it's not. Yeah, into Euston. We'd beat some of our London friends though. You know, like they'd have an hour and a half commutes, like, and we'd be like, we went out, we were in, you know, the old heavyweights were in Vauxhall. We'd be in Euston in 10 minutes and then on the train and up in Rugby. So on a Friday night, we'd be in bed before a lot of our London.
7:30, I'll be in bed from like we would finish at 6, train station, in bed by 7:30, and I'm in Rugby. And then
wow.
It's crazy, really. But we did, you know, we were sat in Euston looking a bit rough.
Just a bit, yeah.
You know, you see some sights at Euston Station at 6 a.m. I tell you.
Oh
yeah, that's true.
Same with Paddington as well, really. Doing the same mission back. No, it's not 50 minutes on a train back to South Wales.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Because Rugby's very dead centre of the UK, really. So it's kind of a good commute point for people. So you can go to Manchester in about 2 hours. You got Bristol, you have to go to Birmingham first, but it's like 2.5 hours. London's an hour. So it's quite good.
Junction one for the M6 arrive. You're on those and stuff. It's decent, man. But yeah.
So something I want to go back on, and that's like when you're saying about kind of the people who say that, it's like I'm not feeling it. Yes, the scene's not all that at the moment. Other people who, you know, they need to look within their own kind of creative process or where they are at with the music in their head. And it's funny because I was going to say, like, I think this really badly happened, and this continues to happen in drum and bass, and has done for the last couple of years, as drum and bass has gone incredibly mainstream and commercial in certain aspects of it. So a lot of artists are playing multi-genre sets. A lot of them are making dubstep. A lot of them always have been. You know, the Alex Perez's and Skepticals of the world have always been able to turn out a really interesting 140 kind of work out. But I think, like, I was wondering what your thoughts were on whether the kind of deeper side and the dubstep related stuff is benefiting from a few people who have kind of felt that about drum and bass and just thought, you know what, I'm going to refresh my creative palette and do something else, because I quite often find that drum and bass artists who make dubstep often make really good dubstep.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
really
they fucking. Yeah, they always come in with the cleanest fucking mix down.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so
clean, mate. I remember I played on a show with I was opening for Skeptical and with SPMC. And I played a Leo Cap tune. I mean, obviously he's a drum and bass guy. He's a Black Barrel.
That's it. Yeah.
And like I just said, like I heard just how clean it sounded in comparison to some of the other tunes I was playing. And SP was like, "Yeah, that's the drum and bass mix down for you."
Yeah, it's just there's an art there to it, isn't it? That only the guys who've lived and breathed D&B at a good level can achieve. Man, it's some of it, like, not everyone wants to achieve that sound, to be fair. You've got to make sure we say that there's definitely a little bit of rough and tumble that comes with the dubstep. I think there's always been a little bit more of a DIY aspect to dubstep and grime for that matter. That obviously drum and bass was birthed at a time where the music industry was a lot, you know, and getting into it, entering it was a lot harder back in those days. You had to be a lot more polished. You had to have a certain level. To even get locked in. There was a lot more gatekeeping in those days because there wasn't as much of there wasn't as much like affordable tools for, you know, to access the industry and stuff. But
that's it. I feel like the hardware that was being used at the time and the dub plate culture and stuff like that, it was a very, very different time. Like, whereas, kind of dubstep has retained that rawness, that DIY and grime. And I think it's because it's in the hands of the people type of thing, like Jungle did before drum and bass kind of took over and became this very shiny sci-fi kind of futuristic, future obsessed, tech obsessed genre. But yeah, I think it's the warmness and the ruggedness really is one of the biggest appeals, really, the DIY nature, isn't it? And I think that relates to you guys, you know, having a podcast and having a brand, like having a zine and stuff like that. You know, this is it's those type of things that, you know, that is DIY culture, isn't it? It's like having an idea and seeing it through and going, right, should we do this? Yeah, fuck it, and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're all, at the end of the day, we're all nerds for this stuff. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned the zine and stuff like that. And for yourself, that, like, you know, you're from the valleys, you know, you live out there. I think, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think we kind of recognized that once we started like gaining a few follows, and I'm talking like 100 followers. I remember like me and Todd having conversations, and like I remember it'd be like certain, you know, originator, one of the older heads would drop us a follow, and like either me or Todd would notice it, and I'd be like screenshotting it, sending it to each other on WhatsApp. It's like, fucking hell, you seeing someone, you know, discovered us, and people are like realized, I think, that what we've done and what we built, it could only have been built by someone like us in our position, who isn't living in London, who isn't living in Bristol, because we you know, the initial people to follow us and gravitate towards us are the lost souls, you know, the people living, you know, we've had music from people from obscure places that have no scene whatsoever. There's not a night, they haven't even been to a night. They just heard the music online. They love the music, so they make the music. But, you know, it's their dream to come to London one day, or to go to America, go to Denver, you know, go to LA and like check out their local shows if they're, you know, if they're from, you know, they're down in South America or whatever. We've been really lucky that way. And yeah, the zine helps us document it. Todd's like, we're probably going to get back on. So Todd's done so much awesome vlogging in. Yeah, like, what's some of the nights you've vlogged? I was like,
we haven't done some in a while, really, but yeah, we've done we've done Outlook a few times, like just vlogging that. We've done just, and a lot of our shows, 2022, our birthday event we did with 3WA Causa, like, I want to get back on it now. I've got a new camera actually, so hopefully it will get me a bit more inspired. So I got
nice. I got one of them. Yeah,
the
man. I don't know if it's the Osmo. I think yours is looking a bit bigger than mine. Oh wow, no, I think. Oh no, I haven't got a little. Have I got a screen on mine? Yeah, I have. Hold on, it's this one anyway. It's in a case.
Yeah. This is a game changer, I think.
I've got the earlier version of it.
That's the Osmo Pocket 1 or 2, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I need to utilize this a little bit more than I do. Currently, a lot of my filming stuff is just done on this webcam in a static way, but these are perfect for vlogging. How much time do you spend? Because there's the immediacy of that. Again, I wasn't really expecting to get in such kind of nuanced details of content creation, but this is definitely the same field that we share. Like there's the idea and the capturing it and being in the moment is great, but then quite often, I mean, I've still got shit that I wanted to create short little documentaries or vlogs about, you know, from last summer, which I just haven't got around to because the edit, the time. Like, how immediate are you with all of that type of stuff? Are you able to kind of turn it around quickly, or do you just kind of, you know, do you stream, like, you know, literally vlog in the moment or anything? How do you approach it so it doesn't turn into this mountain of film footage, which could be amazing if you have the time and the patience to go for it all and create something cool?
Yeah, like normally, if it's like a planned vlog, for sure, I'd turn it around in a week, thereabout, editing, sorted. But there has been a few times before where it's just, we've either too busy or we had too many shows or something in a row, and it's kind of like a bit of a backlog. Like, I do remember our Slovenia vlog didn't come out for a good few months, to be honest. But I find with the vlogs, they don't particularly do great, really, because it's very niche genre of music and people are there more for the music rather than just vlogging, I guess. So it's one of them where the motivation, I kind of lost it a little bit, but I want to get it back again, for sure.
Yeah, the festivals do better because you're just dealing with much bigger numbers. Like the Outlook vlogs that Todd's made of, like, the numbers, like, you know, you don't want to do everything for numbers, but it's one of those things. It's just natural, isn't it? You go to a small niche club night in Slovenia or Budapest, as we do, or we've been in Holland and that, and it's like the people who attended it, you know, plus a few more, you know, curious, like real diehards are going to sit through and fully check that out. And if they're like real geeks and, like, you know, they've heard of some of these producers' names but never seen them before, don't even know what they look like because they're not really they're not really that inclined on social media, especially quite a lot of people we deal with. You never see their face. It's just a little EP artwork or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
But there's something to document in for sure. It's kind of, that's pretty much, whether it's the podcast, we're kind of through conversation documenting the scene that way. With the zine, I photograph events and festivals. You're talking about like how we balance it and enjoy it. I only shoot on film, so I'll take a roll, maybe two with me. So I've got
right.
36 shots of film, and so I don't have my camera out all night. I pick my moments very carefully. Sometimes it doesn't work out. I'll photograph some events, and DJs have asked me afterwards, like producing DJs or certain people, like, oh, why don't you include me in the zine? And I'm just like, your photos just didn't come out, man. They just didn't get one. That
Yeah.
it just didn't work. But I'm like, on to the next one. There'll be another opportunity. There's been, it's put a bit of pressure on in certain times when I've been somewhere like where I feel like this is really special. No one's shown this place any love, especially when I was out in Asia. But yeah, it's just, I prefer it that I'd rather that than have a digital camera or my phone out where I'm coming back from a night with 300 shots. Fuck that. I'll get 36. That's the night.
Yeah, I like that. And then there's the same, it's kind of creativity or limitations enhance creativity in that type of way, really. And when you can just capture everything, you end up with, hours where you're going through it and you're looking for that kind of little quote or that little moment. And yeah, it's why sometimes I can end up with a project that never comes out in the end, because it's like I can't do this justice, I can't. And it's only when there's one of you or like a very small amount of you kind of going through it. And so I was wondering if you had any kind of tips and stuff like that. But it's what was the point when you guys realized, like, right, we're onto something here, and like kind of starting to get gigs and playing, like you toured India and like you said you've been in Asia and stuff. Was there a critical moment where things kind of switched, or was it a very gradual thing?
What do you think, Todd?
We got like, what's the word, like sort of recognition from Jay Sparrow quite early because we featured his Deep Medi album, and I feel like because he sort of, what's the word, like sort of showcased us to his audience. It was like he gave us the okay that these guys are okay, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like co-signed you.
Yeah, it's like these guys are all right. So, and then everyone else started kind of getting like following us and stuff. In terms of like getting shows, I think our first show together, because of COVID happening, that was a big problem. It was the one in Brighton, C-Bo, with Koki, but he didn't turn up.
Oh my god, that night was a mess. It was meant to be Hatcher, Casper, Koki. Can you imagine this? Your first event as Deep Turbo together. Hatcher, Casper, Koki, Problem Central, who also didn't show.
And Hatcher didn't show either.
Yeah, this whole night, I think because it was coming out of COVID and there was the whole testing, and I think a couple of those guys had been at a festival or a gig the night before somewhere else as well. So like, or a festival. So I don't know if there's failed testing, but we don't know because we were actually we were invited to come do a radio show in the day, so we were down early anyway, and then we just got this message like, could you guys like open up for like, if they like something stupid like 2.5 hours, but then we just bought the guy who like interviewed on the radio. It's like, do you want to get a gig tonight, do you want to open up, you open up and we'll play the second set instead. And it all worked out. Like Casper still showed, people were happy. Like
that was our first time connecting with Casper really as well, and Gary J, and that's how we got sort of a lot of gigs through them as well from that gig, because they saw us play that first time.
Wicked.
That is one of the first vlogs we put out actually, but like I did actually watch that one recently and the audio's awful. It's so bad. I was like, what have I done?
Filmed it in 2008 or something on a Nokia. But yeah, I was gonna say, to Todd's point, though COVID in terms of like, obviously for everyone it felt awful, but like just in timing and deep tempo and like gaining momentum, like we grew a lot during COVID, like audience wise, online. Of course, everyone was at home. We were getting tagged like our social media like crazy. Like people were having watch parties, like student houses. Like this is like all around the world. Like we had We had like people like say, oh, like it's like watch night, you know, like podcast night with Deep Tempo, and they're just tagging us, and it was like literally like 8 people on a sofa around, you know, just with
Go
loads of
on.
lunch, because it's just something to do. It's 2.5 hours, 3 hours, you know, to like chill and watch with us. So we grew loads, and then I think obviously when we not even just playing out, but even just going out still as fans, because we still go out, we still rock, you know, we go to nights, you know, all the time. Yeah, when we're really feeling the lineups to support. Even, you know, not just the big events. We've mentioned heavyweight and, you know, and Medis, that level stuff, but even, you know, like smaller labels that don't put on stuff as often will go. But we really did feel it at those big nights when we went out, because suddenly it was like, oh, we've been those guys who not even our own socials, but like we forget that like all these labels. This was probably before Instagram even let you like collab on posts.
Yeah, it was before that.
Yeah, Pod used to upload all the clips onto Dropbox for people. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as and when you could get them churned out. And we forgot, because there wasn't that collab feature, that like our faces on all these record labels that have got much bigger audiences, and then suddenly, you know, like now, because especially when we stood side by side, like pretty much how we are on the podcast, can't we go to a dubstep rave and just get lost in it like the way we used to be able to before, which has like been an interesting thing to kind of,
isn't there, because I can relate to that as well, where it's normally there's the first kind of couple of hours of arriving somewhere. For me it's drum and bass, and you know, you get a lot of attention, or you can see people like, oh, is him over there type of thing. But then I often find once I'm on the dance floor and I'm in the zone, you might get the odd spud, but generally people will kind of be like, go on, sick, you know, he's actually living what he preaches. And you must find that as well at dubstep night. So there's a kind of level of respect, like, because it's weird when that starts to happen, isn't it? And it's not something that you would ever set out to do this for. And it takes a little bit of work. Some nights, like, I'm not, because I go out on my own quite a lot, because my age, like all my raving mates, mainly all of them, are no longer raving anymore. They're all, you know, they've grown up gracefully. I haven't. So quite often I'm on my own, because I know that I'll see people, and sometimes it's a little bit weird, but I'm hoping that there are, you know, the dubstep kind of dance floors do allow you to just lose your shit and get lost in subs when you need to.
It's more walking through to the toilet or at the bar. That's the thing, you end up getting stuck there for 3 hours.
You go to get one drink, I'll be like, Todd, do you want a beer? And then I just don't see him for like an hour and a half. And it's like, oh, you know that beer I bought you? I drank that one as well, because I finished mine. And you try, it's like, you're trying to be like polite, and, you know, like, people are like, you know, saying big up and giving you love for what you do, and that, it's like, and it might, you know, especially if it's first time meeting them, you only have to give one person 15-20 minutes, you know, and then another one, you know. And I've done it so many times where we've been on nights out, and it's like, oh, like, the one person I really, really wanted to see like start to end of their set, I've completely missed it. I've been waffling, you know, by the bar the entire time, especially in some clubs, you know, where it's not like, you can't really, you know, you go grab a drink or you go to toilet, you're really missing the vibe. You can only hear in the background, but it's just some clubs aren't set up that well for that stuff. And then you just get the really intoxicated people who, no matter, even if you stood in front of cyanide, they're still trying to talk in your ear, even though you got your plugs in. It's hilarious. But no, generally speaking, it's like, I mean, by middle of the night, we can usually find a dark corner of the dance floor just to go and like get fully involved. Like we used to back in the day.
Yeah, I think it's really important to do that, isn't it? Like, to still be engaged with the culture, with the dance floor, hearing it in the way that it was intended. You know, there have been periods in my career where I haven't been able to so much because of family commitments, and then kind of getting back into it as a raver, it was this kind of burst of like, oh my God, this is where I need to, this is what inspired all of this in the first place, really. And I think, you know, when you stop raving, or at least enjoying it, you know, kind of in that experience, is when you probably need to kind of change the topic of your podcast or anything like that, really. Where's the most I'm really interested to hear about India, actually, like, because obviously there was some, you sent me the last tape as well. It's an amazing Insalma track on that, but there's, I mean, just India's thriving in so many different ways musically. There's so many exciting scenes and clubs out there. I mean, it's a sprawling subcontinent. What are your crowning memories of India last year?
Honestly, I think it's one of those experiences that still hasn't really sunk in. honestly.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Genuinely, I think, because I mean, I've laid over in India twice on flights and never been able to leave the airport because it's only been for like a couple of hours or so. And I've always like, well, I've sat there being like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like to just, to go out, like go check this place out. Like you see stuff online, you get all these mad ideas, but um, yeah, it was, oh my God, it was intense, wasn't it, Todd? It's not like we've never toured like that before either. We did 7 shows in 12 days, 6 official ones,
And the
and
podcast
and the podcast, and recorded a podcast while we were there in Goa.
with issues.
Yeah, with sound issues and all sorts that we just about got around. Like really we had the most insane decks and system and the most booky mic setup you've ever seen in your entire life. Just because of one, we've got to shout out Jack and all the Goa crew basically who sorted us out there. But I mean, the overarching feeling is like India is like it's truly where it's at, man. It's where it's going to be at. Like I think the country as a whole, not even just musically. Obviously, India's got lots and lots and lots of growth, like potential, just as a whole. So in terms of people like discovering music and England, like it's just such a rich, like culturally rich country in that aspect. And the bass music scene over there, and we have to describe it in that fact because we didn't know this before going, that they're really, really integrated in one another. They're not really split by genre or care about any of that. Like every night we went to, the crowd was essentially like half of it was full of local artists who were also like based in that city, and they didn't care whether this was a dubstep night that we were on. They might be drum and bass, they might be garage, they might be footwork, like all other sort types of bass music. They just kind of all realize that they're all doing something quite niche in India, especially in certain cities. Like obviously Delhi and Mumbai have got like a much more, and Bangalore had much more prevalent like producers, but some of the other smaller ones we went to, you could really feel it there that they were like, oh yeah, we're all doing something quite unique, quite niche. And even though I'm not exactly in that sound, I'm going to come out and I'm going to support. And it seemed like that was the general vibe, wasn't it, Todd?
Yeah. They have such good energy in all the cities, even if it's one that doesn't even know. Like Vizag, like was a good example. In the end of Vizag, at the start, it was dead. No one was dancing. It was a bit strange. But as soon as I think you play, what tune did you play? Japan.
Played Plastician Japan. They started dancing,
and then from that moment, energy. It was like the end of the night was like, I've never been so drunk, man. It was mental.
Yeah, so I was just say to explain, Vizag is on the east coast of India, and it's actually like it's a holiday destination for Indians, like a domestic holiday destination, if you like. It's a beach. We were the first ever artist to tour there from the UK, like to ever play there. Yeah, there hasn't been a dubstep like touring artist there. So shout out Yokai, who runs Riot, who took us out there on tour. Should give him all the love because he organised it all. And he actually tried to get me to stop in India when I was previously in Asia on my way back home. But I set this up for later. I said to him, it's like, oh man, let's do something properly, like with me and Todd. Like we'll come back out, let's organise it, we'll figure it out. He's also took Nefertiti out, Haifo out. He took Hamdi out for Hamdi's first ever rave. Was Hamdi's first ever tour outside of the UK, or any show, not even just a tour, was in India with this guy Yokai way before he blew up. When Hamdi had like maybe like 1,000 followers, that's how he just was a fan of Hamdi's music. This is before Skanker. We kept questioning. It was like, how on earth, out of all the guys in the scene, did you look at that guy and think, I'm going to tour him? Because this guy, like at that point, like I mean, obviously Hamdi is where he is. He's no shot. Hamdi's playing side rooms and small rooms at local little nights, in Brighton or whatever. Because I think he was it's like the South Point crew down there. But yeah, anyway, Yokai he's a really intriguing guy. And he wants to spread the music through India, and he wants to like raise its profile. So that's why he added Vizag to the tour dates with us.
Go on, that's amazing. And I love the fact that there are still places in the world, no matter how kind of widespread we can travel and how small the world becomes, where there are still first places where people now, even in 2020s, can be the first artist to play a certain sound in a certain place. Like
Hmm.
there's still uncharted territory to play. There's still new dance floors to kind of break in that way. And
Yeah,
quite often, especially when you're kind of speaking, interviewing a lot of the kind of pioneers, and you feel like, wow, I wonder what it would have been like to be, the first UK artist to go and play drum and bass in America or something like that. But there
yeah,
are still places all around the world which haven't yet experienced this. And any DJ could be the first kind of DJ to be the touring person out there. And that feeling that there's still new ground to explore, there's still new places to take this, I think is really important for any type of sound and movement, thinking about it, really, isn't it? Knowing that there's that
definitely,
potential for yourself to thrive and for the sound and the culture to thrive in that way.
definitely. I just think it's good for us all, like with the, like interconnecting, like from abroad. Like I think a lot of us do get, I think all genres and all little like crews and clips like kind of get a bit, like all cities and towns where there's a bit of a scene get a bit self-absorbed with who's who in the scene and who's running what nights and all of that. But Chile, like when you look at like the labels that really pop off and grow, like they always find those gems, that one person from abroad who kind of reps. And that's I've always looked at, like, like Goth Trad is the guy. When you think of when you think of Japan, you think of
Yeah,
dubstep, you think of Goth Trad, and there is such a wealth of talent out there. But and people who are obviously not exactly just dubstep as well. There's loads of them. Like Todd's just said, we've had a new one in the inbox that I can't wait to check out now. But like I really think India is, because of the size of it, and also how we can't even really justify like how hard they went. That like
go
in
on.
Bang, our first night we literally landed, got in the airport, went straight to the hotel, showered, and we're at the club because we did 5 workshops before each event as well, where we sat down with the producers and like
Wow.
local DJs, and we did a kind of we kind of named it navigating the scene, but it was generally just a sharing of our story, how we've entered it, but also
Yeah.
about connecting with people abroad because they're really keen. If there's anyone listening, like, or checking out this, if you're wondering about India, if you run a label, like they're really keen to connect with UK labels, with US labels, like with the European scene as a whole. So um, they don't just want to be like, insular with what they're doing over in India. Though it's great that they're growing their scene out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so people should check them out for sure.
How do you manage? Because when you're in this type of position and you travel the world, but you also have a day job, you also have other commitments and stuff. I find that I will go away, kind of either a little tour or a trip or something like that. You make these amazing connections. People really look after you and they make you part of their family for the time that you're there.
Mm.
But then when you get back to the UK and you get back to wearing many, many hats and stuff, I mean, I know that people have gone like, oh yeah, well, we had great times when you were out with us, but then you didn't really get back to us. So we've lost touch with you since you've gone back to the UK. How do you keep it up to date? You're having workshops before every gig out there. You must have made
Mm.
so many good friends out there, but then managing relationships, I think, in this type of situation, when you have a platform and you are in touch with a lot of people. I'm really bad for this. I know a lot of people think that I'm either rude or don't get back to people. I just haven't got the time. It's really just, like it's either that or, spend time with my family, and you have to have that healthy balance of things.
Yeah.
How do you guys keep in touch with other people? Because you're more well traveled than I am. I've hit the last few years and really are connected with so many people. How do you make sure that you keep those connections fresh? I think.
I think it helps having two of us for
Ah, right.
sure,
True. Yeah.
because one can pick up the other, the other person. So, but I suppose it's you have like your kind of main guys, I guess. Like, for example, Yokai from India will always keep in touch with him if we've got projects happening, or uh, Budapest. We've got a lot of friends in Budapest that we like to keep up with, but it's not like we can talk all the time. It's only here and there, or if something's going on. But I don't know. It is a challenge because of, like you say, like we work full time
Yeah,
inside.
yeah. I think think you kind of naturally gravitate, like your tribe just kind of finds you,
Yeah.
and think like you naturally kind of spend the time invested in, you know, people who you've connected with, who've like given you opportunities and you've given them opportunities. And I don't know if it's the dubstep scene now. Like, for the most part, it feels just a lot maturer now. I don't know what it is like. 10 years. I mean, we wasn't as involved in this backside of stuff. When I was a student, I used to be involved in nights. A lot of that was a little bit more on the grime side of things. Just and radio and stuff like that as well. When I was a student down in Bournemouth, but these days, I don't know. It's just, I think it's an investment thing. I like, and we're lucky that we have the podcast every month. So people know, no matter who we've connected with around the world, like if they've got a music project coming out, if they've got something going on, they can send it to us, and me and Todd will give it the time of day. We'll give something to listen. We like the couple of days before we're about to record a podcast is just like power. If it's like the last minute stuff, you know, that's on top of the stuff that's got behind me. Just depends on what's going on in our lives. Like I said, we've got partners, you know, like we've got family, got a wedding to go. You just don't know what's going to come up. So it adds a lot. You know, so it's a big commitment, but the podcast really does help. That's the anchor for everything we do. You know, we've got a record label
that's the
now.
flagship, isn't it?
We've got the zine, we've got, you know, our website, we've got Patreon, we've got everything, but the anchor, the core is everyone knows. And the reason why I think, you know, we've gained like good respect from everyone that we've worked with is that they know we're going to show up. There's been times where Todd's had to do podcasts by himself because I've really had shit going on. Do you know what I mean? You know, and he's had to hold it down. Vice versa. They know between us. That's the beauty of there being two of us and us both having the level of commitment it is that like, yeah, we're going to be two. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just like seeing people win, man. I think me and Todd both like, if people are doing good stuff, like, we never like gatekeep anything. I mean, I was having these discussions the other day, like, talk about Asia and stuff. I've somehow become the Japan man, like the Japan and Taiwan guy, and like connections. And even this last like few months, so Kama, who's like based down in Brighton, he's been out there. Sibla, I think he's Manchester based. He's gone back out that way, and Asia as well. They both hit me up and asked me for some connections. Both played. They ended up playing on the same night for one of the same nights in Nagoya, and played in Tokyo with the peeps that I know out there. And then Jack the Grays, who now lives in India. Actually, he lives in Goa. He's original Birmingham boy. Used to work for oh god, Submission and stuff. He used to, you know, help Nicole out with the UK side of things. He's now touring in Asia as well, and he's going to hit up Taiwan next week with, you know, just because I said chat to Dina that this is the guy. If you wanna connect, if you're going here on holiday, I always say this to people, and it's the same way if we tell the Americans or people if they're coming over this way, even if we haven't got a show, let us know and try and let us know, you know, with a few months' notice rather than a week, because no one's sorting the show out. We get that stuff. Like, oh guys, is there anything going on? I'm like, it's like, yeah, if you're asking me if there's a show you can go to, that's cool, but like getting you on the bill with a week ahead, it's not really. You must have had this trip plan longer than that. So we just say to people like, I mean, we did Raz's shows when he came over here from Canada, and that was really difficult. They come together quite last minute, but we thought he's one of our guys. He shared loads of music with us. You know, he's absolutely bad boy. So we just tried our best. Did a Bristol and London gig. You know, you just put effort in for people, man. We're really proud of the debuts we've done. I don't even know, Todd. Who else's debuts have we done in the UK? We've done not even just abroad people, but people playing in cities they've never played before here as well.
Free WA was in. Yeah. Or did he? No, he didn't play. You know, he didn't have a passport, did he?
No, we had to make him get a passport. We had to help him get one. So
go on, amazing.
And like we with them as well. With that birthday, we tried to give them an experience as well, because it was Cause and 3WA, and we wanted the Ray sound system, so they get to play their music on proper sound. And I think because we did 2 nights, we did one in Bristol and one in Birmingham, and you could tell it wasn't like the busiest of events, but just getting that experience down such a big sound system, it was good. It was a good weekend, and the thing is with what me and Charlie, we just don't like letting people down at all, and that's why we've always shown up for podcasts like Charlie was saying. when he was traveling Asia, he was using internet from his phone and charging him 80 pounds just so he could get a connection to me via whatever we were using at that time.
That's dedication.
You got it. That's the thing. Yeah, that was every 2 weeks. I have no idea how he did that every 2 weeks. I would not have been able to do that if I was abroad. That's mental.
This is the commitment, though. You know, once you're committed and you've created this, then you know this. Yeah, you have to live by that, or otherwise you're doing yourself a disservice. Let alone the scene or the community.
That's it. Like the amount of times, like say you've got a favorite YouTuber and you really like their videos, and then they don't come out with a video after a week, or then it's two weeks, and it's free. Eventually, you're like, if they do come back, you're like, half the audience is gone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, you gotta be consistent. And we've tried to do that. We've gone monthly within the last year and a half or whatever it is now. But that's just helped us to bring out more stuff, more merch, magazine, more events. And now we're a record label, so it's progressing. Like we've come back on the podcast, but we're still progressing in other aspects. So
yeah, and it's that balance then, really, isn't it? Kind of not being committed and also not being afraid to change. Then, because I guess there was a wonder, like, right, if we reduce the amount of podcasts, will we reduce the amount of kind of engagement that we have in that type of way? But like you said, it's kind of making space and making sure that those monthly shows are even better than the fortnightly shows.
And that's what we did. We kind of leveled up, we shoot in 4K, more tunes per podcast, because I felt like what was happening was every 2 weeks, like those videos weren't really, eventually I feel like people are like, it's a bit too much, you know what I mean, we're doing a bit too much. It's good for social media because you've got so many clips to post. So I think our Instagram was like doing really well when we were every 2 weeks, and maybe not as much now, but I feel like the podcasts now are a lot better and better quality with I feel like we've got more energy in each episode now.
Definitely. There was ones where we were doing a break
to look forward to, isn't it?
we were like this in our seats by the end of the podcast when we were every 2 weeks, like this, like doing the last cheer, just like trying to get through the last couple. Like, oh my god,
that's the thing, man. Yeah, because we were sat down then as well. Now we stand up, which helps.
Yeah, just like the physical psychology, the energy of standing up and talking is so much more different, isn't it, really?
It is better with the handheld mic as well. I do enjoy the podcast more so now.
Yeah.
Go on. Cool. But let's wrap up now. I mean, I could talk to you guys literally all night about this. This is my bread and butter, and it's something I'm so passionate about, and I'm really inspired by what you guys have done. But and maybe, you know, hopefully we can have another conversation in the future and stuff, and I'd like to chat to you again and continue supporting what you're doing. But this is all about the mix. This is the 140th mix in the series of one more mix. It had to be a 140 mix, and like I said at the start of the conversation, it had to be you guys. You know, and I've literally been sitting on mix 139. Actually, he's been sitting on an interview as well. So in the end, there's been a lot of delays, but you guys have got a little bit of time now. I think this interview is going to go up as it is, like this Zoom interview, because it's been wicked, and I've done it on YouTube to complement the mix. What have you done the mix yet? Where are you at with it, and what do you have in mind for it?
Yeah, the mix is done. It's done. I think we just need to just level it a bit better. That's all. But yeah, it's kind of just a bit of everything, bit of new stuff, bit of like some classics thrown in there, and then it starts quite not necessarily really chill, but like a bit of energy, but nothing crazy going on. Yeah. And you sort of gradually build, and then you got a bit of a mental bit in the middle.
What about you just giving like the descriptive kind of how you were feeling during it?
Yeah. And then it's just a mixture of like new stuff, old stuff, and then some wicked blends, a couple of double drops. Just the way we always sort of do our mixes live, I guess. That's like our taste has always been that, and I just love a blend and a double drop. That's just always.
That's what you want to do, innit, lad?
Well, that's the art of DJing, really, in that type of way. And like I've another thing that slowed down the mixes that we've been doing in the One More Mix series is because I've started this thing called B2B with me, and I'm looking for some dubstep DJs to do a pure dubstep mix, because I'm too scatty as a DJ, so I jump around far too much. But if I'm DJing with someone who's very much kind of in that genre, then that keeps me kind of reined in, and I'm really, really enjoying doing those, you know, just like feeding off somebody else, bouncing off somebody else, and giving somebody else energy as well, giving them, like, throwing them under a bus every now and again with really weird selections or tricky tunes to mix out of, and seeing where you can take the mix. But I guess that's you two all of the time, you know, when you're in a duo, that is the art of DJing, really bouncing off each other, and that kind of telepathy that you have when you're playing with someone regularly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we kind of left both, and we know, like, other people who play together regularly, like they might not be duo aliases, like a Rock Clem Sabah, the boys from Germany and stuff. Though they're other and you know, they 90% of the music they release is together, and they usually get booked and play back to back together. But, you know, everyone goes about it differently. Like me and Todd, because we share music, we do plan and discuss our sets, like, entirely. But we've been in, I don't know, like, countless situations. Like in India, there was shows where like the other DJs had, like, travel issues because of the weather and stuff like that. So that Vizag one, that was interesting actually. We ended up opening, like, just playing that whole night, and we only had
the
one
whole thing.
Yeah, so we only had one. The DJ eventually made it. The other main guy that was meant to be on, but he only got like 40 minutes, and he didn't even. He could have played to the end, like played an hour, but he just was like, nah. I think he'd had such an exhausting travel. He did 40 minutes, and then we got back on again. But we've done, you know, New Year's Eve actually. Talking of Rockland, you know, we went back to the night was scheduled till 4. Like, it was in Munster in Germany. And the club just didn't want to close, so we ended up back on, and we went back to back with Rockland till 7 a.m.
Oh,
I'm not joking. Like, we just kept going, and people just, I mean, yeah, the crowd, of course, it got to 7, so it thinned out from what it was in the middle of a New Year's Eve night. But there was still so many people dancing. It was just like we felt like we just had to carry on because it got to the point where we're like, it's light outside, we need to go home. But we can. Me and Todd, we know we can just bounce off each other. We had a dub night. We did a reggae bar, didn't we, in India?
Yeah,
but we just like that was the 7th show in India that wasn't like we weren't announced or planned for. It was like our one day off in Goa. But then we just ended up at this reggae bar, and then we just went back to back for a couple of hours with like 5 of us.
We played pretty decent. It was more dubious style, and then
not even dubstep.
Stuff.
Yeah, pure 120
speeding up dubstep and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I did some like 150 steppers, like proper like Hue on Sinai sound kind of steppers. But yeah, that's just the way we mix. If you listen to any of our mixes, it's essentially a snapshot of the scene now.
Yes. And
kind of just stuff that's in our inbox. And obviously you mix in some older stuff to like bridge the gaps, you know, get you from, you know, A to B when you're trying to find, you know, the stuff that you really want to get in there. And that's what our sets are. So whenever you see us live or we do something online for yourself, then it's a snapshot of where the scene is now.
Yeah.
Go on, wicked. So it's gonna run in, I mean, from like about 2 weeks from now, so the end of June, I would say, within that. But so what can people, like, this will be live then, so what is your summer looking like? Is it busy?
No, it's never busy for us. Our summer's never busy, is it, Todd?
No,
never.
We're literally not festivals, lad, are we?
Nah, we're not. All the sets we'll get in summer, like, so last minute. Every year this has been, I don't know, maybe people know why it's like it's the story of Deep Tempo this is, but like we can be booked up like 3 or 4 months in advance, like through autumn, winter. You know what I mean? Like that's typically how stuff will come around.
Shows,
but like, but the summer comes and it's just like, nah, man. It's like I'm doing SLDC for Joshua and then LDC usually. And he messaged me the other day, and I'm playing in 2 weeks in venue MOT, which I've never played at before actually here in London. So, but I mean that came in when we played Deep Medi 3 weeks ago. Is it now or 2 weeks ago, Todd?
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, Steph rang us on the Wednesday. I was like, "Are you free this Saturday? Will you play Deep Medi for us?" Like, all right, flipping out. Like, talk about last minute. Like, that's it. Yeah, book it this show you want to play. We never played Deep Medi before. It was like could have had a bit more. You must have had the club date.
I thought you played Deep Medi before then, because I think there was talk of that mix being this mix that we're chatting about now, wasn't it?
But that's originally, that's what we were gonna do.
But yeah, no, got a new mix for you. But yeah, because I'm not sure what's going to happen with that one. I think we're allowed to talk about Medi are celebrating 20 years of the label next year, so I think they have some things planned. What we
That's
don't
brilliant.
know, but there you go.
The very fact that you were considering that mix for the 140th mix for the series, for this mix, I think is amazing anyway, really. And that's awesome. I guess, you don't, this dubstep isn't a festival sound, unfortunately, because for me, it is like a big rig outdoors. What better, really, than that kind of style?
Yeah.
There's a few, like Glastonbury's got a few pop-ups now, and Boomtown has a few like little small tents or something. And that's actually, is it Glastonbury had Medi, did they? Was it last year? Or they had
that was Boomtown, yeah. But no, they've got Jake has Firmly Rooted has a stage at Glastonbury now, but it's not strictly dubstep on every day. No. They have other stuff. But Boomtown's the one, I guess, because Dan runs that. But I mean, that's no slight on the people who were involved, but a lot of this stuff's going on for free, It's people who've got tickets to the festival already, because you have to buy them a year in advance before the lineups announced, and then they kind of somehow wrangle free lineups around all these micro stages. It's like, unless you're getting booked on the big stages and stuff. No, so mine and Todd's biggest bookings have all been abroad. They're not like the most well paid, the most well. I say I don't even just. I'm gonna say like. But I'll say what we played Saget Festival in Budapest. We did Give It Dub in the Netherlands. Obviously, I played Foremost, a reggae festival in Taiwan. They've all been abroad. Basically, there's many more, but all our biggest ones have been abroad. I think the UK scene. We've played loads of awesome shows here. Of course, played Heavyweight. Played Medi now.
The Navy Kurt one.
Yeah. But I'd say most consistently it's usually when we're bopping around Europe somewhere, probably.
I think there's a different perception and a different approach to artists from countries where the sound isn't quite so prominent, or didn't kind of, it wasn't incubated there, where, people will be a lot more open-minded to other, there's a kind of a slight cynicism or entitlement in countries where it started. Just, and this isn't a diss. Everybody acts like that because we're so used to having it on our doorstep in a way. Whereas, certainly somewhere like, Budapest, or, further afield like Taiwan, they're really excited to have any guest over who's representing. You don't just represent yourself, you're representing everything else that's come before you and everybody that you're playing when you're a guest in that type of way. And it's fascinating, but also doesn't surprise me. Most touring artists do find that a lot of their gigs and a lot of their revenue is from, you have to fly to those gigs really in that type of way, because of the way just the amount of artists you have in certain areas in, either the UK or America, wherever, that kind of scene is. And I think, there's a different approach and there's a different appreciation. You get taken for a meal and stuff like that. And the further away you are from home, I think, like I touched on before, people look after you certainly when they realize like, wow, okay, you've traveled 24 hours, 36 hours to come over here. And people kind of really embrace you, I think, really, don't they? And that's, it gives me goosebumps really in that type of way. That's where those type of kind of connections are made, and that's how a community is formed over thousands of miles, isn't it?
Like India, especially in India, like we got treated like kings there.
Royalty.
Yokai wouldn't let us buy a bottle of water. Just wouldn't.
He wouldn't let us.
He would pay for it. I felt bad at the end. I was like, mate, buy you something.
Let me buy a pack of crisps for myself, mate. It's absolutely fine. But he just wouldn't. He wouldn't let us. And I suppose that's probably unique. It's quite unique that tour. We didn't really explain that. But Yokai travelled with us from it. He was there when we landed in Bangalore, and he travelled with us on the entire route as a promoter. Which I know, when you're booked by, our colleagues, like our homies, go off to the US and whatnot. Their agent books them, but you get sent your flight details and you work it all out yourself, don't you? And it's like, get an Uber here, get that here. We were chauffeured around India the entire freaking time, taken to like
an
all the best
ambassador.
restaurants.
Like an ambassador for India, really, in that type of way.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. From being a fan of the music to that level of experience, really, and connection with people. Like, when you're deeply, deeply committed and passionate about something, it can take you to some crazy places, can't it?
Yeah,
definitely can, man.
We never expected to be playing any of these things and shows and traveling all these different countries when we first started. Literally over there in the corner of my room. That first one where we had an iPad on a bed looking down.
Yeah.
So our mate was eating KFC in the corner and we were talking about dubstep.
Literally was that, man.
Brilliant. Look how far you've come. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. It's been an education. It's been awesome listening to your story, and really, really inspiring too. So I hope that our paths will cross again, and I can't wait to hear this mix as well. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, we'll send it over in like the next 2 days or something.
Yeah,
perfect.
Nice one.
Perfect.
Wicked.
Cool.
Big up, Dave.
Well, thank you very much. My pleasure. Cool. Nice one, guys. Great to speak to you, and I will speak to you again really soon. Thank you.
And you, brother.
Cheers,
nice
mate.
one.
Cool.
Cheers,
Take
Dave.
care. Nice one.
Catch you,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
One more thing.